Hey, welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to talk about getting your financial house in order. Debt is the silent farm killer. If it's one thing I've learned, not just in farming but in life, it's that not all debt is created equal, and specifically not all farm debt is created equal. Some of it may be slowly killing your business, while some debt can actually be good and may actually be helping it. Problem is, a lot of farmers can't tell the difference until it's too late, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Starting a farm business, or any business really, while carrying a lot of debt it's a disaster waiting to happen. Most farms, most businesses don't generate a lot of revenue in year one, sometimes year two or three. Sometimes it takes getting that infrastructure in place, finding your customer base, getting your message out, and especially starting from scratch, that's going to require capital, which could be debt in getting started. Now, we're not only going to talk about farm debt here, but we're going to talk about all debt in general. Because if you're starting a farm and you already have a ton of other debt, say school loan debt, credit card debt, 2 or 3 automobile payments, then a lot of your income is already spoken for, and you can't really say you're going to use that as capital to start your farm. Now, as I said, not all debt is the same. And I am not advocating for debt here. I am advocating against it. But in starting a business and starting any business really, there is an amount of money you're going to need up front to get started. Whether that comes from your W-2 job, whether that comes from money that's coming in from the farm, but again, a lot of times it's an egg chicken thing. You've got to have the infrastructure and the stuff in place before that revenue comes in. So again, not advocating for debt, but I am conveying that if you're starting a farm, it's going to take capital to get started. You're going to need money to invest before you see a return. For us, there was some unavoidable debt that we really needed to get started. One was fencing. We wanted to do cattle. We knew that. And when we bought this property, it was cropland. So there was no fencing, there was no nothing. It was fields. We needed fencing. So we did a cost share. So that was where we worked with the county. We had to pay for everything up front, and then they reimbursed us for a bit of it. And that was very helpful, but again, we had to take on some debt in order to make that initial payment. Again, we got some of it back, and then over time, through revenue from the farm, we were able to pay that off. But again, up front, we had to go into some debt for that. A tractor, that works for some they don't need it. I think that's specific to each farm. We found that we needed it. One, I was putting in a lot of the posts myself to save money, so use the tractor for that. 2, cattle. We haul hay everywhere around the farm. I needed to unload hay from trailers. I needed to haul hay bales out to the field. 3, our chicken operation. We had a mobile range coop we were pulling around, so used the tractor to pull that around. So we had a number of uses on the farm for the tractor, and it's one of those things that in our specific scenario, we needed it, so it was debt that we took on for that. Now, I'm not saying a tractor is necessarily, every farm doesn't need a tractor. That's something you have to decide for yourself. But again, that's debt that you may need to take on in order to finance that purchase. And then, if you're doing chickens, there's waterers, there's feeders. If you're doing pigs, cattle, any kind of animal, you need things to feed them with, you need things to give them water. This is likely going to cost money. If you're starting a garden, you're doing vegetables, you're going to need equipment to till, you're going to need equipment to plant, wash, harvest. There's an upstart to that as well. And this is something each farm has to decide for itself. And it's real debt. It's debt you will likely have to take on, unless you have a lot of money already saved up, in order to get things started. Now, I'm contrasting this debt to what I think is not good debt starting a farm. And that's obviously if you come into a farm with a lot of school loans, if you come into a farm with already a lot of credit card debt, if the property you bought is requiring a ton of renovation, just say for the house and stuff to get it ready, these are basically killers to your cash flow, because that money you could have used to invest in your farm, well, now it's spoken for. You're using that money already for other things. And then to go take what I was talking about initially, the startup debt for things like tractors, waterers, things that you might actually need, there's not a lot of money there left for that. So this is something that you have to figure out before starting your farm. Hopefully you haven't started a farm in some of these scenarios. Maybe you have, and you're figuring it out now. And I recommend to anybody starting a farm that you really need to come into this not having a lot of debt. And if that means putting off the farm for a few years to maybe work your off-farm job to take care of some of that debt, I think that's a good plan. Maybe you already have the land and have a farm, but you're trying to take it up to a level where you can actually start making money or adding another enterprise to the farm, but yet you have a lot of this debt we've talked about. Then maybe, again, hold off on those projects. You know, it's tempting to think that, well, I'll put these things in place and then they will generate the revenue that will then pay for that debt. And while that sounds good on paper, it's something you can't predict. You know, if you're doing crops and you get everything in the ground and then say you have a really late frost in May that kills everything, then you're going to be months behind on any money that was going to come in. That plan's shot. And if you were depending on that to take care of the debt you used to start that's not a good plan. So that's what I really want to drive home, is that debt can just be a killer. You know, even if you do get started and think you can manage, you're going to be frustrated because you don't have the money to pay for the things that you need, and then the things that you're doing aren't generating that revenue because you don't have the money to invest in it to get it up to that point. So take this seriously. And I'm not saying have no debt. Obviously, we have a mortgage. You know, there's some debt that you just have. If you can get away with that, that is awesome. You know, if you have land that was left to you, if you have some family land, if you just know neighbors or somebody that's letting you farm land, that's awesome, because that's resources. That's things you have that technically aren't using debt. You know, that's a whole nother thing I'll get into. Everyone has unfair advantages. Some people were left land. Some people have farming backgrounds. Some people live in an area where everybody just wants your products. Everybody has different advantages, so you have to make use of those advantages. But that's not something you can bank on. So the real question really for any of you to ask yourselves is, I have debt. Do I have a plan to take care of this debt? And how does that plan factor in with what I want to do in starting a farm or becoming a farmer? So in looking at our farm at Longbottom Farm, this is what it looked like for Lexi and I coming into the farm. I did come into this, when we bought this property, with school loans. I had quite a bit. I'm a physician assistant. I do that part-time now, the part-time farmer, the part-time PA. And when we bought this farm, I came in with that debt, and it was fairly significant. Not only that, we bought a house that was built in the 1800s. It was an old house, and it had a lot of additions onto it, but some of those additions needed work, and some of the house itself needed work. And so there were renovation loans that when we first bought this property, we took out. But the important thing with that was that debt was not tied to a farm plan. Yes, we wanted to start a farm, but we weren't basing the income of the farm or the success on the farm of taking care of that debt. We had off-farm jobs, and that was the plan, was to use those jobs to pay for that debt. Now, what did that mean in the beginning for us? It meant that we didn't get to jump into a farm right away, because we got here, we bought the land, okay, we had the land, we had a perfect place to start a farm, but we didn't really have the capital because that money was tied up with the things I just mentioned. So we delayed things for a bit. It doesn't mean we didn't get a few chickens. We got a pig here and there, and we just started off really low and then grew from there. Probably where debt came in the biggest hindrance for us was in wanting to do cattle. Cattle require a lot. They're expensive, first of all, to buy themselves. They require fencing, and big areas of fencing, which means a lot of fencing. They need waters. If you're hauling hay, you need a way to get the hay to them. So there was a lot of equipment that goes in with that. And so, you know, I will say in our experience, that was one of the big things we had to hold off on. We could do some of the smaller things, you know, a few chickens, a pig or two, but cattle, we got started with it, but we only had, I think we started off with 2, and then it slowly grew from there, where if I didn't have that debt hanging over me, or didn't have to spend as much time off the farm, or didn't have to have as much of my off-farm money going to the renovation of the house and the school loan debt, I could have put that into cattle and got that started a whole lot faster. So that's an example where debt hindered us in getting started. Now, 2 or 3 years into it, we had gotten most of the school loans and stuff paid off. I did buy a tractor and a John Deere Gator. We did take out debt for that. And again, we were planning on our off-farm jobs to finance that, because the farm wasn't at a point then that it could finance that. And that was okay. I didn't look at that as vanity debt. We knew with cattle, we rolled hay bales by hand. That's a lot of work. Not doing that again. And just waters, moving the chicken house around. We knew we wanted to do pastured poultry and be able to move that structure to different places. And so the Gator, just getting around the farm, both of those became necessary purchases in our context. But again, we had a plan to pay off that debt with all farm money. And then it was probably not until 8 years into it, a couple years ago, that we really got everything paid off. The school loan and stuff, the house renovation, that got paid off years ago. But the tractor loan, we did take out some debt for some more fencing, the gator. We had bought a livestock trailer at one point. We had some debt on that. And over time, we paid all that off, but it was slowly piecing things in. You know, I can look back and say, if we didn't have as much debt coming into the farm, we probably would have been able to at least accelerate some of this stuff to a degree. But at the same time, getting started as a farm, I look back at it as kind of a positive. Not that we came in with debt, but not jumping in head first. We had time to think about some of the stuff we were doing, not because we wanted to think about it, but we couldn't afford it. So that's all just to say that there's good debt, there's bad debt. Coming into a farm with a lot of debt is not going to be fun. It's not going to help you achieve the vision you want for your family and your farm. And take care of some of that debt before you come in. And I know that's hard to hear for some people. Like, you want to get started. I know when we got the bug, it's like, you know, it's just, especially when you get the land, you're just sitting out here looking at it. And it's just like you have so many things going through your head. But take it from me, I'm sure a lot of farmers will tell you the same, that the journey is a big part of the experience. It's not the destination. It's not getting to any certain point. It's just learning along the way and doing it in a way that you actually live that dream, and that dream doesn't become a nightmare, and that, you know, you're broke, your farm's not what you thought it was, and you're working all the time. Real quick before we go, if you're already a farm and you've gotten past this whole point and you're actually selling product through Facebook or through text, we can probably help you with homegrown hosting. There's a 5-minute questionnaire below in the description and the comments. Fill it out. I'll get back to you within 24 hours and let you know how we can help your farm online, sell more product, and get in front of more customers. Otherwise, I'll be back to you guys next week. We have one more foundation video, and then I think we'll have a good foundation of what we need to start a farm, where we're beginning, and then we're going to get into the real nuts and bolts of building your farm, marketing your farm, and things we learned and did, and things we shouldn't have done to grow our farm to 6 figures and start bringing some real revenue into the farm. All right, thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next one.